Shali ma'am, you're not audible right now.
Thanks, Preeti. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to this investor education initiative titled Vidya. Vidya is a financial awareness program series that we've designed for the corporate employee. I am Shalini Gera, senior partner at Ingenitis. Let me share the flow of the presentation with you. We'll be keeping the session for the first 50 minutes. The last 10 minutes would be reserved for the question and answer session. So if anybody has a question during the session, I would request you to drop the same question in the chat box. We'll be happy to discuss as many questions as possible during the last 10 to 15 minutes. I would request all of the participants to log into the chat box and enter their details in the questionnaire in the attendance sheet provided. This will help us in analyzing the audience content, and we will also be able to connect to any individuals who have a requirement for an individual financial awareness sessions. So let me start sharing the screen. Preeti, if you could confirm to me, is my screen visible to you?
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Thanks. All right. So this is going to be the program outline that we'll follow. We'll talk about the incorporation of Ingenitis. We'll give you a guide to investment planning. We'll understand about mutual funds, and we'll do a quick recap and then question and answers. Prior to that, let me give you my introduction. I'm Shalini Gera, senior partner at Ingenitis. I've been with Ingenitis as the head for financial advisory for the past 3 years now. Before joining Ingenitis, I was working as the regional head sales for commercial cards at ICICI Bank, and I have a total work experience of 10 years. Let me share the incorporation of Ingenitis. Incorporation about Ingenitis. Ingenitis was incorporated in the year 2012. We manage 5 verticals now. That is investment advisory. Investment advisory talks about verticals including mutual funds, stocks, bonds, alternate investments, portfolio management services. So while mutual funds and stocks are something that every investor knows about, the last few products are there for the more evolved customers. They are larger in ticket sizes, and therefore those investors who have developed an interest as well as an experience of stocks and mutual funds. The next vertical that we manage is insurance advisory. Within insurance advisory, we understand the extent to which an individual is insured, and we work on providing the basic insurance facilities to an individual, including a term insurance, which ensures the financial protection of the family members. We work with health insurances. Within health insurances, we are associated with the top leading private sector insurance companies in India. And the third aspect that we deal with is motor insurances and general insurances, including fire and household insurances. The third vertical that we have is lending advisory, which is the need of the hour. In lending advisory, we understand the current loans which are going on with the investor. We also work on new loans such as personal loans, mortgages, and home loans. We understand the rate of interest on which a loan has been taken by the borrower, and we work on reducing the loan outflows by working on a balance transfer. So the rates, let me give you a premise of this. The rates in the environment have reduced from a 6% to a 4% in the past 1.5 years, but these rates have not been reduced by the various bankers. So we ensure that we are able to reduce the rate of interest for an ongoing loan by transferring it to a different bank altogether. And this helps in reducing the net EMI outflow for the borrower. The fourth vertical that we deal with is tax planning. Within tax planning, we understand the various taxes which are being paid by the individual, and we optimize those tax flows by ensuring that the minimum amount of taxes are being paid for a certain individual within a certain tax bracket. The fifth and the final vertical is estate planning. It's not talked about. It's a very, very important aspect, especially in the current pandemic scenario. In estate planning, we understand how the wealth that we have developed over our lifetime is to be transferred to our family members. This is especially important for the age group of our parents who may not have a estate plan in picture. We do this through will planning, through life insurances, nominations, power of attorney, and private trusts. The final vertical is real estate and interior design services, which is managed by a group company of ours, that is Urban Upgrade Interiors. Let me tell you about the starting point of Ingenitus by sharing one of my own experiences from my life. So I started my career in 2011 and I had to do my tax planning and submit my investments proofs to my organization. So it was one fine January morning that I had walked into a branch and I had asked for a tax saver fixed deposit, which was giving me a 9.5% return at that time. I was met by a well-dressed privileged banker who asked me, why do I want a tax saver fixed deposit? Instead, I should go for a guaranteed investment plan. And these guaranteed investment / insurance plan will give me an assured return. So he stated that I would have two advantages by investing into this guaranteed insurance plan or investment plan. He mentioned that one, I do not have to segregate a certain amount each and every year, and this amount will be directly debited in the form of the premium from my bank account. And second advantage that he stated was that in the fixed deposit, I would be getting a 9.5% return, but here in this guaranteed investment plan, I would be investing X rupees for 7 years, and in 15 years, I'll be getting 2x rupees. That is double the return, so 100% return in 15 years. This sounds like a very rosy pitch and is often given to most investors who walk in for investments. But there is a very fine problem with this sort of a plan. So can anybody over here tell me what sort of a problem do you think is with the guaranteed investment plan that the banker pitched to me? I'll be looking for answers from all of you. You can log into the chat box. Preeti, if you can moderate the chat box and let me know what are the answers which are coming.
Sure.
So for the audience, I'll just repeat. There were two plans that we had discussed. One was a fixed deposit with a 9.5% return. Another was the guaranteed investment plan. And the investor had to invest X rupees for 7 years and get 2X the amount of rupees in 15 years. So 100% return in 15 years. But there's a major flaw in this pitch. And what is that flaw? Can anybody tell me what is that flaw in that pitch? What is that flaw in the product that he was selling to me? Why should I not opt for that product? Let me see. I think we have certain answers in the chat boxes. Anybody? So guys, we would want to make this session as interactive as possible. So I'll request you to put in these answers and please keep your eyes and ears open because there's going to be a quiz during the session and we'll have loads of interaction rounds as well. So I would want to hear answers from you. And can anybody tell me investment in equity shares? No, this was not an investment in equity shares. This was a guaranteed investment plans. God knows where my investments were being made. I was not told where the investments are being made. No, they were definitely not equity shares because it was a guaranteed plan. Equity cannot give you a guarantee. But I was told that I'll be getting 100% return in 15 years. So guaranteed plans blocked money for a long time, although we can get same returns in other plans. Rahul, thank you for that answer. Anybody else? I'll be looking for some more answers before I give you the right answer. Anybody else? Why do you think I should not go for that guaranteed investment plan? Let me give you a hint. Maybe that might prompt the right answer from somebody. So while I was getting 9.5% returns in the fixed deposit, can you tell me what are the annualized returns that I would get from that guaranteed investment plan? Anybody? Any other answers? So Parikshit says because with compound interest, we can get in many other plans like PPF in 15 years. And if dare to take risk, then mutual funds. All right. So let me share why I did not or why I should not choose that guaranteed investment plan. So remember I told you that I was getting 9.5% return in that fixed deposit. So when I say 100% return in 15 years, this is an absolute return. This is not an annualized return. The fixed deposit was giving me 9.5% annually, whereas this plan was giving me 100% in 15 years. So when you do a calculation through an XIRR is a figure which gives you the annualized returns for various investment options. This plan was giving me a 6% return. Now, this is something that is not revealed in discussions. It is never told that the annualized return is actually 6%. Rather, what is told is you would get a guaranteed return, and the guaranteed return is going to be 100% in 15 years. This is what sways the common investor. He chooses to get into it without understanding what are the returns that he is getting, without understanding what are where is the money going into the market. So before choosing any investment option, ask the person recommending that investment class to you, where is my money being invested and what are the annualized returns that I'm getting from that? See if those annualized returns meet your expectations and then opt for that sort of an option. So this is the vision. This was a vision behind starting this organization, that we wanted to do the right financial planning for every individual. The right financial planning ensures that I understand, number one, the financial goals of the individual, number two, the risk appetite for the individual, and we also understand the return expectations from the individual. So my entire financial advisory discussion revolves around these three parameters. And after understanding these three parameters, do I move on to do I move on to actually recommending the product? So that's the first differentiating feature that we have. The second differentiating feature is the focus on technicals. Now, I'm sure a lot of you would have been privy to some friend of yours or some colleague of yours who's told you that, oh, I invested in so and so stock and I made a fortune. I generated a return of 50% in the past 1 year. You should also invest into the stock. Or I invested into this mutual fund and this generated me 120% return in the past 1 year. It's a good stock. It's a good mutual fund. Invest into that. That is the worst possible methodology for taking up an asset class. You should never go by the returns, because one, the past returns are never an indication of a recommendation of the future returns that you will generate by investing into that asset class. And secondly, just because the fund has generated return for your friend or your family members or your colleague doesn't mean that it will be the right asset class for you. So your investments have to be unique for you. It has to be a function of your financial goals, your risk appetite, as well as your investment tenure. Do not go by the returns, by only the returns. So along with returns, it is also important to understand the technical aspect of the stock or the mutual fund. So we as a financial advisor understand the technicals, including the alpha, which is the return over and above the benchmark which a stock or a mutual fund gives to you, the beta, which is a volatility associated figure, the standard deviation, again telling you about the volatility, and various risk adjusted ratios, including Sortino ratio, Sharpe ratio, information ratio, Jensen's alpha. So while it may not be possible for an individual investor to understand and to develop the financial acumen to understand these technicals, it is very much possible for a financial advisor to tell you, to talk to you about these technicals along with this historical returns, and then share a recommendation with you. So that is where we bring a value add to our financial advisory. The third differentiating feature is that we focus upon the revenue structure. Our initial meetings will always tell you what are the kind of charges that are associated with a single product, and our website also details all of those charges. So that will ensure that there is no amount of mis-selling in the market. Mis-selling was the main pain point that we had seen, which is why this organization was incorporated. And by ensuring that we talk about the charges upfront, we ensure that there is no amount of mis-selling which is happening. So let's talk about the guide to investment planning. What should you concentrate upon before choosing an investment plan for yourself? So first and foremost aspect is the goal planning. Ask yourself, what are my financial goals that I'm investing for? Bifurcate these goals into short-term, medium-term, as well as long-term. So short-term goal is going to be less than 1 year. A mid-term goal is going to be between 1 and 5 years. And a long-term financial goal is going to be greater than 1 year, greater than 5 years. The second and the most important, I would say, is the risk profiling. So we have a detailed 9 option questionnaire, 9 questions questionnaire, which carry detailed information on your financial experiences, on your financial expectations, on your financial methodology that you follow, and the expectations that you have in terms of the returns. And basis these information, we categorize you in one of the financial risk profile, that is either conservative or moderate or aggressive. So a conservative investor will have a different asset class that he should be investing in, and an aggressive investor has to have a very different asset class that he will invest in. Thirdly, one should also understand the investment tenure. Either if the investment tenure is less than 1 year, you'll have a different asset class. And if the investment tenure is more than 5 years, there's a different asset class which is defined. So before jumping into any investment decision, ask yourself all of these 3 questions. Understand these 3 parameters thoroughly about yourself, and then choose an asset class. So this brings us to our goal planning exercise. This is going to be the first interactive session in the first interactive round in the entire session. I would request all of you to open your mobile phones and use the URL www.menti.com. Put in the code word 30579482. You'll be guided towards a screen which talks about various financial goals. I would request all of you to put in at least 3 financial goals. And this is going to be displayed live on the screen in the form of a word cloud. So let's try and understand how well you understand your own financial goals. We'll wait for a minute so that all of you can log in, enter this code word, and then we'll move on to the answers. So we have one answer. So I hope everybody has logged in. I'll repeat the keywords once again. The URL is menti.com. It's there on the top of the screen. And the code word is 30579482. Please use this URL and this code and key in your answers. We're not getting any answers. Is there any sort of a problem with anybody trying to log in and use the screen? Yes, the answers are now coming in. Others, I'll request you to use this 1 minute to enter any 3 financial goals that you can think of. So far, we've had dream house, we've had tax saving, wealth planning, retirement, children education, new house, traveling. All right, they've had 6 responses. We'll wait for another 30 seconds for all of the answers to come in. Any further respondents who would like to put in their answers? We've got 11 responses so far. We still have 17 participants. All right, so we'll move on to the responses. It's very evident from the financial goals that retirement is the most important financial goal for all of you. The other important goals that I can see are traveling. The audience is very fond of traveling, and tax saving is the third most important goal. So it's very important, and it's good to know that you've thought of retirement planning. Retirement is that one goal for which you do not get a loan. You will get a loan for traveling, you'll get a loan for children's education, you'll get a loan for owning a land. But retirement is that one goal for which no bank will give you a loan, which is why you must start planning for your retirement today itself, as soon as possible. So I'm glad to know that the audience is clear about their own financial goals. It's important to start investing for these financial goals from today itself, and it's also important to map your investments that you have done for each and every goal. So that will ensure you have an understanding of what is the percentage completion of each and every goal, and that will also ensure that in the times when you feel like pulling out money or you want to splurge on yourself, you do not pull out the money from a goal that you have, or from an important goal that you have invested for. Okay, so we've discussed about goal planning. Most of the investors have their goals bifurcated across children's education, children's marriage, retirement, house purchases, and vacation. Let's understand, are we walking on the right path to achieve your financial goals? So there are two golden rules for starting your investments. One, that is 40% of your net income should go towards your investments. The rest 60 should be segregated towards your expenses and your liabilities. The moment your income hits your bank account, you should have a mandate in place which is pushing across 40% into your investments, and then the 60% should be going towards your expenses. The second golden rule is that every good investment option should be beating inflation. The inflation factor at the moment is 6%. Now, what happens if you choose an investment class which is giving you a less than 6% return? So if my investment is giving me a 6% return and the inflation is also eating into it by 6%, that means my investments are actually not growing. I am not earning anything out of my investments. It's actually better not to invest at all. So you should ensure that any good investment option beats inflation figure of 6%. Let's come to the second engagement round of the session. That is, what do you consider a smart investment option? So I'll request you to log on to the URL menti.com once again. Enter the same code 30579482. I'll share my presentation screen and you will have 10 odd investment options to choose from. I would request all of you to share your answers on what you think are the smart investment options. So here's the second screen. You are required to go to menti.com once again and use the code word 30579482. You'll be presented with 10 different investment options. Request everybody to tell me what do you think are smart financial options. Okay, we've got 2 responses so far. 3, 5. All right, so we've got 11 answers so far, and 23% of the audience feels that PPF is the best performing or smart investment option. I would like to have a discussion on this. Then the second smartest investment option has come out to be real estate. 19% of the audience thinks so. And then the third preferred investment option by Axis Group of India employees is mutual funds. But I would like to have a discussion upon both these options. So the average return that PPF is giving to us at the moment is about 7%. This PPF return used to be more than 11% till about a decade back. Since the returns have come down in the economy from a 6% to a 4%, the returns of all fixed asset income classes have come down as well. By fixed asset classes, I mean fixed income instruments, which are giving us a guaranteed return or a guaranteed percentage return. So PPF is also a part of such investment options where there are guaranteed percentage returns defined by the government, but there are two problems with it. Number one, it has a lock-in period of 15 years. That means that you cannot utilize this money and you're locked in for 15 years. And number two, the current return that you are generating is about 7%, rather less than 7%. I think it's about 6.75% that the return has come down to. Now, considering the fact that we are moving towards a globalized economy, globally, the returns are at a near 0%. So US, Europe, Japan, US and Europe have actually 0 to 0.25% returns in the market. And Japan actually has a negative return. So if you are keeping money into Japanese bank accounts, you have to pay the bank in order to keep your money. So that's the scenario that we are gradually moving towards. And also, if government is to revive the economy through the pandemic that we have suffered in the past, government is not in the mood to increase the interest rates before 2023, which means that investments which are being made into PPF at the moment or fixed deposits are not going to give you higher returns than a 6.7. For a PPF, it's at a 6.75%, and for a fixed deposit, it's a 4.9%. So we will be having these sort of returns at the moment, and these returns are not likely to increase in the future. Rather, they are likely to go down into the future. Let's also understand about the real estate, how attractive have real estate returns been. We'll move on to the asset allocation quill for the same. Interestingly, 8% of the respondents also feel that fixed deposit is an attractive asset class. So this is an asset allocation quill. This asset allocation quill talks about the performance of various asset classes in the past 1 decade. So the past 1 decade is a good enough representation for the historical returns of these asset classes. And you can see that the asset classes are arranged in a descending order of their returns across these 10 years. For example, in 2019, you can see that international equity performed the best. It generated a return of 27%, while small cap mutual funds performed the worst. A lot of investors talked about PPF. So PPF is delivering a 6.75% returns, and there is a lock-in for 15 years. I would suggest you to look at other options as well, where there is no lock-in, and without those lock-ins also you can generate better returns than a PPF or a public provident fund. Let's also understand about the performance of gold. So gold has delivered the highest returns in 2010, 2011, 2019 and 2018. But you can see that 6 out of 10 years it has actually performed abysmally bad. So in years 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 17, and somewhere in 2016 as well, it was actually at the bottom of the results. So gold as an asset class tends to shine whenever there is high volatility in the equity and debt market, because investors come out of equity and debt and they tend to flock towards gold. So one should have a certain percentage allocation of gold into their portfolios, but not too much of a skew towards gold. we suggest that investors can look at a 10% of asset allocation for gold into their portfolios. Let's look at the other 6 years, in the past one decade. So look at 2012 to 2017. You can see that mid cap, international, small cap, credit risk, GSEC, and small cap, and then again international have performed the best. So there's one common thing across all of these investment classes, that is they are part of mutual funds. So by investing into different types of mutual funds in these 6 years, one could have generated better returns than a gold or even a real estate. Let's look at real estate. So 2012, 2010, one of the worst performing asset classes. It performed very well in 2011. Agreed, that was a silver period for real estate. But then you can see that after 2013, the performance of real estate started floundering, and it's somewhere near the bottom of the chart in the past 5 years. So there is one clear functionality which is emerging out of this asset allocation quilt, that mutual funds have indeed been a smart investment option, and they've actually delivered. That is, different kinds of mutual funds, of course, have delivered the highest returns in the past one decade, while other asset classes such as real estate and gold have had their periods, have had a 1 or 2 year period in which they performed very well. But in other years, in most of the years in the past one decade, they performed badly. We had an 8% of the respondents telling us that FD is also a good option for mutual funds. So let's understand the returns of a fixed deposit and let's compare them to an alternate asset class, which is debt mutual funds. So fixed deposit, an average 1 year fixed deposit is giving us a 4.9% return. And as I talked about the global rates, we are expecting these rates to actually go down in the future. So while fixed deposits give us a 4.9% return, inflation itself eats into these returns at a 6%. So if you invest into fixed deposits, you are generating returns at 4.9%, but inflation is eating into these returns at a 6%, which means the net return that you get out of investing into a fixed deposit is minus 1.1%, which means that your investments are degrowing and they are not generating any returns from you. There is an alternate available asset class, which is called as a debt mutual fund, which gives you a similar amount of risk, that is minimal risk, lesser amount of risk, but it gives you higher than fixed deposit returns. This is called as debt asset class, debt mutual funds. Debt mutual funds are investing into government bonds, government securities, RBI bonds, treasury bills, PSU bonds. They are not linked to the equity market. They do not invest into shares, and they do not expose your investments to the volatilities of the share market. Let's understand the comparison of debt mutual fund and fixed deposits. So while fixed deposits do guarantee a return from you, but the return guaranteed is very minimal. It is at 4.9% right now, and it is only expected to go down in the future. You pick up any good debt mutual fund, and that a good debt mutual fund would have given you a return between 7 to 10% in the past. While this is no guarantee of a future return, but this is a good amount of estimate, because if you consider the history of debt mutual funds over the past 30 years as well, good mutual funds have delivered consistently between 7 to 10% without too much of a volatility. So while there may be no assured return in debt mutual funds, but they have always delivered better than fixed deposit returns in at least the past one decade. Let's come to the next factor, which is inflation-adjusted returns. I briefly touched upon inflation, that debt mutual funds have the potential to give you higher inflation-adjusted returns. So a typical debt fund can give me an 8% return. Even if I take into account the inflation factor at 6%, then also I'm getting a net plus 2% return. While a fixed deposit is not able to beat inflation, it is giving me a net minus 1.1% return. The amount of risk in debt mutual funds is very much there. They have a medium to high risk, but depending upon your risk appetite, your financial advisor can choose the right debt product for you. So depending upon how much risk and how much return do you wish to accumulate, an appropriate debt mutual fund is there. So they have a medium to high risk associated with them. A fixed deposit usually has a low risk associated. The amount of liquidity is very high. Now, most investors don't know about the liquidity. Liquidity means how soon can I take out the money? A lot of investors talked about PPF. So PPF has a lock-in period of 15 years. There is minimal, there is absolutely negligible minimal liquidity in a PPF. Why restrict yourself to low liquidity? You talked about real estate as a smart investment option. If you are investing into real estate right now, and if you need that money for your financial goals next year, you cannot come out of a real estate because real estate is not sufficiently liquid. You need to find the buyer, you need to negotiate with the buyer, you need to have multiple meetings with the buyer, and that is finally when the buyer decides to actually opt for your real estate. Then he has to approach a bank for arranging a loan. So a typical liquidity period can range between 6 months to 1 year, and that's a very high amount of illiquidity in the real estate markets. But debt mutual funds have a high amount of liquidity. You opt for a redemption today and the redemption proceeds will come into your bank account by tomorrow. So they only have a illiquidity period of 1 day. Within 1 day, you will get your redemption proceeds. And there are also mutual funds that will redeem and come into your bank account. They'll be credited to your bank account the same minute as soon as you click on the redeem button. That they are this liquid. Debt mutual funds do have an exit load. Let me tell you about the exit load functionality. Exit load prevents investors from withdrawing prematurely or achieving their financial goals. There is usually a 1 year exit load which is associated. So you can still withdraw before 1 year, but you will be subject to a 1% penalty. Having said that, there are also mutual funds where you can invest up to 1 year without any sort of an exit load. So no penalty. This is not in the case of a fixed deposit. In fixed deposit, there is a premature withdrawal penalty generally to the extent of 1%. If you withdraw lesser than that period, you will be subject to a 1% further penalty on your fixed deposits. There is a cost of investments for investing into debt mutual funds, which is called as the total expense ratio. This total expense ratio is the cost that you pay for investing into mutual funds, and it takes into account the advertising expenses, the marketing expenses, as well as the distributor fee. There is no cost of association of investing into fixed deposits, but even if you take into account this cost, then also debt mutual funds are giving you better returns than a fixed deposit. Let's understand the tax status. It is very important to understand tax status. Debt mutual funds are highly tax efficient. I'll explain how. So most of the investors over here in the audience will have a 30% tax bracket. That is, your investments will be subject to a 30% tax once you redeem them. The debt mutual funds have a factor of indexation within. So if you are holding your debt mutual funds for more than 3 years, the factor of indexation comes in and you will be taxed at 20% post indexation, which boils down to just about 10%. So your fixed deposits will be taxed at a 30%, whereas your debt mutual funds will be taxed at a 10%. So 20% of a taxation benefit as well that debt mutual funds give you. This is a calculation that I've done for fixed deposit versus debt mutual funds. Imagine if you were to invest 1 lakh rupees in both of these asset classes for 3 years, the returns that you will be getting upfront, this is without taxation, is 4.9% in a fixed deposit and about 8% in a debt mutual funds. If you hold them for 3 years, let's look at the net returns that you were to generate. So you will be generating 3.5% in a fixed deposit and a 7.9% in a debt mutual fund. You can easily see that there is a differential of about 3.5% in the returns that the debt mutual funds have the potential of generating for you. This is because of the advantage of indexation, which fixed deposits do not have. Let's understand what are the various investment avenues that we have available. So an investor who is starting, who is just about to start in the market and wishes to explore, should restrict himself to mutual funds. Once he has had a flavor of mutual funds, should he also look at asset classes like equity, like bonds, like golds, in order to further explore and enhance his portfolio. So for the starting investor who wish to understand what are mutual funds and how do they work, I have a small video for you.
To measure the velocity of a rocket entering the space, one should know what rocket science is, right? वैसे ही, before investing in mutual funds, one should know what a mutual fund is. And believe me, it's not rocket science. मैं तो 7 साल की उम्र में ही समझ गया था. उस चॉकलेट बॉक्स खरीदने के लिए मेरे पास पूरे पैसे नहीं थे, लेकिन मेरे पास एक आइडिया था. तो मैंने अपने एक फ्रेंड को बुलाया और कुछ पैसे जोड़े. बट इवन देन, फिर मैंने एक और फ्रेंड को बुलाया और कुछ और पैसे जोड़े. और फिर the shopkeeper told us to divide the chocolates proportionately. 1 coin, 1 chocolate. 2 coins, 2 chocolates. 3 coins, 3 chocolates. And that is the concept of mutual funds. Mutual funds has a large number of investors with one common investment objective. This money is then invested in bonds, equities, and other securities. The income that is generated is then distributed proportionately amongst all the investors. इसीलिए तो कहते हैं mutual funds सही है.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
So we have a small investment puzzle for all of you. We talked about a quiz as well as an interactive session. So let's try and understand what is the investment quotient of the audience over here. So we'll have a 10-point crossword puzzle, and this is slightly technical in nature. The answers are slightly technical. So people who already know about mutual funds will have a slight advantage over here. I'll read out the questions one by one, and I'll request you to share your answers by unmuting yourself and letting us know so that we can move on to the next question. So question number 1 is, who is that employee of the asset management company who manages investments of the scheme? Participants, please unmute yourself and give me an answer so that we can move on to the next question. It's a very simple, this one is a fairly simple one. Who is that employee of the asset management company, such as a mutual fund, who manages investments of the scheme? It's a fairly simple one. Anybody who's invested into mutual fund will know this. Who manages your investments of the mutual fund scheme? What is that person called?
And we have answer from Mr. Rahul Garg, fund manager.
That's absolutely correct. The fund manager manages the investments of the scheme. Question number 2. What is the key monetary policy rate of interest at which the central bank or the Reserve Bank of India lends short-term money to banks? Again, very simple, day in and day out, we hear this term in the newspapers as well as in the news. I'll repeat question number 2, key monetary policy rate of interest.
MCLR.
No, Sunny, I'm afraid that is not the right answer. Any other person willing to give it a try? Four-letter question, 4-letter word for a key monetary policy rate of interest at which the Central Bank or Reserve Bank of India lends short-term money. We have certain answers in the chat box. Preeti, any right answers?
There's one response from again Rahul Garg sir, CRR.
But no, that is not correct.
No,
Any
not
other
a
answers?
correct answer.
Any other answers?
We do have responses, but not the correct.
Okay, so we'll move on to the correct answer. That is called repo rate. Repo rate is the rate at which the Reserve Bank of India lends to banks. And this is that key rate which decides what loan, what rate are you borrowing at? So your loan rate will also be a function of the repo rate in the market. The higher the repo rate, the higher will be your rate of interest on your loan. The lower the repo rate, the lower will be the lower will be the borrowing rate on your loan. So always keep a track of the repo rate. Question number 3, again slightly technical in nature, rate of return anticipated on a bond if held until maturity. I understand we have a team of IT engineers and software engineers over there, but it is important to know what sort of terms are related to your investments. So any answers? Question number 3, rate of return anticipated on a bond if held until maturity. It's a 3-letter answer. Preeti, do we have any answers? Any answers, guys?
And there is one answer bonus from again Mr. from Rahul Garg.
What is the answer?
Bonus.
Bonus. No. What is the rate of return anticipated on a bond
Okay.
if held until maturity?
No response.
Any other guesses? So we'll move on to the right answer. The right answer is called YTM. YTM is also known as the yield to maturity. The yield to maturity is the return that you would get on a bond if you invest till maturity. Question number 4, dash ratio is a measurement of efficiency utilizing the relationship between risk and return. Again, slightly technical in nature. Any answers from the audience?
Hello? Yes? Anji?
Any answers, guys? Yes, I think we have an answer.
Ma'am, we have an answer, response from Mr. Parikshit, XIRR.
No. XIRR is the return that we get from an investment. We are asking about the ratio that measures the relationship between risk and return. So that ratio is called as the Sortino ratio. Once you invest into any sort of a mutual fund, look at the sort of Sortino ratio. The higher the Sortino ratio, the better the mutual fund will be in terms of its risk-adjusted return. Question number 5, this refers to the recent updated cumulative market value of investments managed by a mutual fund. This is simple. So what is the total value of mutual funds that a mutual asset management company manages? So when you look at when you want to have a look at the total assets managed by an asset management company, what is that figure called?
AUM.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sunny, for your answer. That's a correct answer. Question AUM is also referred to as the asset under management. Question number 6. A tool that helps you to create long-term wealth by investing a small sum of money every month. Very, very simple question. Any answers from the team? Very simple question. 3-letter word.
SIP
Thanks, Sunny. Sunny, you're a very, very engaging person in the audience. Very attentive. Thank you for the right answers that you've given so far. Question number 7. A group of securities, usually a market index, whose performance is used as a standard to measure investments, performance of mutual funds, among other investments. What is that market index called?
Ma'am, can you repeat the question? So I think your voice got break with.
Okay. So what is that index called whose performance is used as a standard to measure investment performance of mutual funds, among other investments? Question number 7. So when you want to see the performance of any mutual fund, what is that you look at? What is that figure that you look at? when you want to compare the performance of a mutual fund.
ROI, something of that sort.
ROI is the return, but you look at the benchmark. So benchmark
Yes,
is nothing but the return of.
Rahul Gal told SEBI. Yeah.
Sorry, predicted?
Yeah, SEBI. Rahul also told SEBI.
SEBI. No, so SEBI is the regulator in the market. But when you want to understand the return of a particular mutual fund, you'll have a look at the benchmark. The benchmark can be a Nifty, the benchmark can be a Sensex, the benchmark can be Nifty small cap funds. These are called benchmarks. So benchmark will give you what is that optimum return that your mutual fund should deliver. Ideally, your mutual fund should be able to deliver an alpha or a return over and above the benchmark. Then it's a good investment option for you. Question number 8. What is that which is charged at the time an investor redeems the units of a mutual fund?
There is exit load.
We talked exit load. Thank you, Parikshit, for the right answer. Question number 9. This is specific to a mutual fund and asset management crucial for your portfolio's health. I'll repeat the question. Question number 9. Tata Mutual Fund. Absolutely right. So that's Tata India Pharma and Healthcare Fund. Thanks, Parikshit. Question number 10. Tata Mutual Fund scheme with an exposure to equity with 100% hedge into this type of mutual fund. It is often used as a parking mutual fund. It has an exposure to equity, but it gives you the benefit of equity taxation. It gives you a hedge in equity as well. So it's often used as a parking fund for generating about 4 to 5% returns, and it is used as a parking fund for your emergency requirement as well. It is not too volatile. Is anybody aware of this kind of a fund? It's often used as a parking fund for investing money for a short duration of time, better than bank account returns, and then from here you can shift onto the equity market gradually. All right, so most people are not aware of this particular asset class. It is called as an arbitrage. So let's move on. We talked about goal planning, and you guys seem to be very well aware of your financial goals. The second factor that you should look at in terms of your financial planning is your risk profile. So within risk profile, I talked about 3 broad categories, that is conservative, moderate, and aggressive. If you are a conservative person, your goal should be capital protection. Your recommended investment class should be debt mutuals. If you want to look at a moderate asset class, for a moderate asset class investor, the investment objective will be a combination of capital protection with capital appreciation, and your recommended investments should be hybrid mutual funds. Your recommended tenure should be at least 5 years to remain invested. Third and foremost, the risk profile is categorized as aggressive risk profile. Here, the risk investment objective is capital appreciation. You should look at equity mutual funds if you're an aggressive investor, and the investment tenure should be at least 5 years. I would like to now ask a question to all of you. The question is, when should I enter into mutual funds? When do you think is the right time to invest into mutual funds?
As soon as you start earning, or maybe
Absolutely right. So as soon as possible is actually the right answer, Parikshit. Thank you for that. Let me share a story of 2 investors who invest into mutual funds for this. This is investor A and investor B. Investor A decides to invest into mutual funds every year at the age of 30. He wants to invest for his retirement. So he starts investing from the age of 30 to 60, 1 lakh per year. That means within 30 years, he's invested 30 lakh rupees and he's getting 10% return on his investments. Investor B wants to live a slightly lavish lifestyle. So investor B wants to enjoy his life and his income for 10 years. And he says that I'm going to enjoy my life and I'll start investing at the age of 40. for my retirement. Why should I invest so early? Itni bhi kya jaldi hai? Let me enjoy. So he starts investing the same amount, 1 lakh rupees every year from 40 to 60 and gets a return of 10%. So while A has invested 30 lakh rupees in these 30 years, B has invested 20 lakh rupees in these 30 years. I would like to pose the question to all of you. What do you think both of these investors will get as a corpus when they retire at 60? Any answers from the team? Any guess? You don't have to give me a calculated guess. You can simply give me an estimate. What do you think A and B will get when they retire? Any guess? It can be it does not have to be an educated, calculated guess. It can be any guess. So when A invests 30 lakh rupees, what do you think he'll get at the age of 60? Preeti, can you give me the answers, please? There are certain answers coming in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am. There is one response from Mr. Tarun Singh, 1 crore. There is one response from Mr. Sarath Kumar, 1.5 crore.
So this is for whom? 1 crore for whom?
One
For A and what for B?
1.5 crore for A and 1 crore for B. This is a response from Mr. Sarath Kumar.
Okay.
And Tarun Singh has responded 1 crore for A till now.
Okay. Any other answers for A and B? What do you think is the corpus that A and B will generate if they invest the given amount for 30 and 20 years respectively? Any other answers from the audience? See, this is a very important concept called compounding. The earlier you start, the better you generate. Preeti, any other answers?
Yes, ma'am. We have one response from Mr. Sunny Kalra. He responded for A, it's 78 lakh, and he hasn't responded for B yet.
Okay, so I'll give you the right answer. A invested for 30 years at a 10%, 1 lakh rupees each year, and B started very late and he invested 20 lakh rupees. Let's start with B. So B will generate a corpus of around 60 lakh rupees when he retires at the age of 60, and A, by investing only 10 years earlier, is able to generate triple the amount of corpus when he retires at the age of 60. So B generated 63 lakh rupees and A generated triple the amount of corpus at 1.8 crore rupees. This is the power of compounding, and this is the power of starting early. So start as early as possible. Enjoy the factor of compounding, which is also called as the eighth wonder of the world, and make the best possible use of these investments. So this brings us to the end of this session. We'll do a quick recap of what we discussed. What are the 3 investment guiding principles that we talked about that are very important to understand about yourself? What about the 3 important investment guiding principles that we talked about? Any answers from the audience? Guys, we're ending this session. This is the last slide of the presentation. Preeti, could you please give me the answers?
Yes, ma'am. There is one response from Mr. Tarun Singh. Start as early as possible.
No, we talked about that's absolutely correct. You should start as early as possible. What are the 3 guiding principles that you should look at for investing?
There is one more response from Mr. Rahul Garg. Risk, revenue, and goal.
So, right, Rahul, you've given me 2 correct answers. You should look at the financial goals. You should look at the risk appetite. The third you should look at is the investment tenure. How long do you wish to remain invested in the market? These are the 3 guiding principles. The time to start investing, we've already got the right answer. That is right time to start investing is as soon as possible. And in order to summarize the session, I would like to leave all of you with one small video on mutual funds. This is by Mutual Funds Sahi Hai. Let me know, Preeti, is my screen visible to all of you and audible as well?
Yes, ma'am. Screen is visible.
कहानी है ये एक सुपर हीरो की। पाई पाई जोड़ के लाते वो घर में खुशियां, क्योंकि उनके अपने ही थे उनकी सारी दुनिया। पर इन खुशियों में वो नहीं हो पाते शामिल। आखिर
उसको फोन किया था, मतलब कि मारा था, तो पुलिस वाले ने पकड़ लिया, हेलमेट नहीं था
सामने वाला कॉलर पीछे की नीड की कॉल नंबर को वाटर फेंक है यहाँ पे पानी किसी के पास?
Shalini, your video is not audible.
Was video not? Hello? Hello?
Was the video
Yeah.
audible to everyone? Can you please confirm?
You were on mute, Shalini.
Yes, I was on mute, but the video, was it audible and visible to all of you?
I can able to see, but we got the preview.
Yes.
Heard audio. Okay, let me play that again. Preeti, could you also not hear anything?
Actually, I was able to hear, ma'am.
That's strange. Let me also once again play it for you. I'm playing it once again. Please confirm if it's audible to everybody. This should be audible. Shouldn't be a problem. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. Okay, we've started once again. Are you able to see the screen as well as hear the audio?
Yeah, but yeah, Shalini, proceed.
You're able to. Great.
कहानी है ये एक सुपर हीरो की। पाई पाई जोड़ के लाते वो घर में खुशियां, क्योंकि उनके अपने ही थे उनकी सारी दुनिया। पर इन खुशियों में वो नहीं हो पाते शामिल। आखिर उन्हें बनना था मेरे सपने पूरे करने के काबिल। इसी काबिलियत की वजह से मैं अपने पंख फैला पाती, उनके हौसले से आसमान की ऊंचाइयों को छू जाती। मेरे लिए हुई उनकी कई रातों की नींदें कुर्बान। पर अब तो चैन से सो जाना, देख के मेरी उड़ान। आज उस सुपर हीरो को थैंक यू कहने की वजह कई हैं, क्योंकि उनकी प्लानिंग के कारण आज मेरी दुनिया सही है। थैंक यू माय सुपर हीरो। हैप्पी फादर्स डे।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
All right. So that brings us to the end of the session. I would request for all to key in their questions in the chat box now. We'll take another 10 minutes for answering all of the questions that you may have on the session that we had or anything to do with investments. I'll request you to key in your questions in your chat box. Preeti, I'll request you to share the questions that have been taken up.
Yes, ma'am. A request to all attendees, please post your question which you have in mind related to this session in the chat box, and we'll address the same right away. Till then, I'm sharing the attendance link once again in the chat box. Please mark your attendance, all the attendees, if you have left.
I think, Preeti, we have a question in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
Team, do we have any questions before wrapping the session?
I saw some responses that you guys, the attendees that have filled. I can see people have queries regarding the tax planning a lot. So any specific question in that particular area? Till then, ma'am, I would like you to address some questions from Mr. Parikshit. Okay, he has only shared his feedback till now. So, ma'am, can you throw a little light on tax planning, tax saving, how people can look into it, what sort of options they have available? Because I see the responses that they are majorly somewhere looking for a tax saving also.
All right.
Till then we receive some questions.
There are multiple ways to plan for your taxation. Income tax has devised multiple sections in which taxes can be planned. The first and foremost, the biggest chunk of tax planning goes into section 80C, which is 1.5 lakhs of investments. So you can do this via options such as ELSs. That is the most recommended option that we have for tax planning. ELSs refers to equity linked savings scheme. Within equity linked savings scheme, this is the only available option which offers the lowest lock-in period of 3 years. All other investment options in the tax saving asset class require lock-ins for more than 3 years, for rather minimum 5 years. So ELS is, by giving you the lowest lock-in period, has the potential to generate the maximum returns. ELSs refers to equity linked saving schemes. Your investments will be parked into equity, that is the equity market or the share market. It is advisable to keep a long investment horizon in place, that is at least 5 years, while they will be able to generate substantial returns in 3 years. But because equity market is volatile in 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years, and the volatility tends to get ironed out after 5 years, ELSs give you the best return after a 5-year period. So ELSs is the recommended option for you. Other available asset classes for ATC tax planning are fixed tax saver fixed deposits, ULIPs or unit linked insurance plans, PPFs, and Sukanya Yojana. These are the various options that are also there for ATC tax planning. Other than that, if an investor is running a home loan and he is paying a principal amount, so whatever principal amount is being paid during the entire year will also be eligible for counting under the ATC tax planning of 1.5 lakhs. Other than that, whatever provident fund is being deducted from your employer's side and is being invested into the employee provident fund will also be accounted for that 1.5 lakh rupees under your ATC tax planning. Apart from that, we can also plan for purchasing a health insurance scheme from our own for our personal usage as a family floater plan, and whatever premium is being paid can be counted for in section 80D and to a maximum capping of rupees 25,000. Other than that, if you have parents for which you are procuring a health insurance scheme, because your corporate insurance does not cover your parents, so if you are paying for an insurance for your parents who are more than 60 years of age, you also have another 50,000 of an additional deduction that you can take advantage of under section 80D for health insurance for your parents. Other than that, if you are running a home loan, whatever interest component you are paying will be covered under section 24B, and a maximum of 2 lakh rupees of an interest can be taken as a deduction for your tax planning under section 24B. Any other questions, Preeti?
Ma'am, we haven't received any questions so far.
All right. So if there are no other questions from the audience, we would like to wrap up this session now. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us this opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you, Sandeepan, for arranging this session. Thanks all of you. We'll be signing off now.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you, Preeti, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.